Hi there, Michelle McQuaid here from the Making Positive Psychology Work podcast, where I've just finished interviewing Professor Barry Schwartz from Swarthmore College. Now try saying that 10 times quickly. Barry is the author of several best-selling books, including one of my personal favourites, The Paradox of Choice, and he has a number of highly viewed TED Talks, which you can see at TED.com. And I was fortunate enough to have been taught by Barry when I did my Masters of Applied Positive Psychology, and his lessons on how to make more effective choices that improve your well-being have stuck with me ever since, and I wanted to share them with you today in case they're helpful for you as well. Now, Barry notes that having choice is actually really important for our well-being. It helps us to feel more in control, gives us that sense of autonomy, helps us to feel like we have the power to shape the lives we want to be living. But he also notes that having too much choice can actually undermine our well-being, because making any decision at all gets harder the more choices that we have. When we do choose, we're often left with the regrets about the paths we didn't take, and it can heighten our sense of social comparison with others about the choices they're making and the results they're getting, or what we might be missing out on along the way. So how do we find this happy middle ground where we can make intelligent choices more consistently? Well, Barry had 3 tips that I wanted to share with you, and his first one was choosing when to choose. Now, Barry notes that in modern life, we have a lot of choices that we can make over many things. And so he suggests that in order to prioritize where you put your energy, your effort, your time, it helps to prioritize the choices that really matter to you. Now, these are the big ticket decisions, like where you're going to work, who you spend your life with, where you want to live. Those decisions are really worth some thinking about, some getting other people's input on, and really weighing up your decisions. But when it comes to what you're going to wear every day, how important is that really for you in the scheme of things? And I think here perhaps Barack Obama did it best when he was campaigning for that role of president and famously had only a blue suit and a black suit with him any day from which to make a choice, so that he could free up his energy, conserve his willpower to be able to make the decisions that really mattered for him on the campaign. So choosing when to choose is one way you can make more intelligent choices. Barry's second tip is learning to settle for good enough. And this one, I have to confess, didn't come so easily to me when Barry first suggested it. Barry notes that many of us are what he describes as maximizers. We're trying to make the perfect choice every time so we can get the best possible outcome. And the problem with this, they find in the research, is that even though objectively the outcomes we're achieving may be better, actually we're left over time feeling less satisfied and undermining our well-being in the process, because we're spending a lot of thinking time trying to weigh up all those options that isn't necessarily well spent on those things. So Barry suggests the alternative is learning to settle for good enough by becoming more of a satisficer in those things that aren't so important to us. And my big aha with this was learning that perhaps I could be a satisficer when it came to finding the perfect car park at the supermarket, rather than spending a long time doing laps round and round and round trying to get a park as close to the door as possible. Now, not only did satisficing in the car parking lot learn to help me to save quite a bit of time and energy from driving around and round and round, but it actually improved my well-being because I was getting a better walk then from the car to the front door. So are there decisions where actually settling for good enough, where satisficing would be a better use of your time and energy and resources? Barry's third tip is that you really want to be mindful of not having too much of a good thing. And this one kind of sounds counterintuitive in a world where we always seem to be wanting more and more and more. But Barry and Professor Adam Grant found that for most things in life, they seem to follow this pattern of an inverted U, where up to a certain point there are all sorts of well-being benefits for us, but at some stage there seems to be this law of diminishing returns where we don't get more benefit despite the fact we have more of a certain thing. So think about your strengths, for example. Up to a certain point, you use your strengths really well. They're helping you feel more engaged and energized in the work you're doing. But when you start to overplay your strengths, you leave yourself at risk of burning out, of actually being less effective than you were. And so Barry suggests being mindful as we make different choices about where are we in terms of that inverted U, and is having more really going to lead us to a better outcome and help improve our well-being. So I hope these tips are useful for you. You can listen to the whole podcast with Barry and get your Making It Work cheat sheet if you head on over to michellemcquaid.com/podcast number 52. So that's michellemcquaid.com/podcast 52. Hope to see you there. Until next time, take care.